Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever. That statement's never been more questionable. Live with all our ailments on this Wednesday evening. It is Sleepless with Steve. Live and in living color on YouTube. We come to you every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time. Happy to be with you wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon here today. Joe recovering from major surgery, I would say. I don't know. Did you talk about it at all on Sleepless? I don't want to out the personal business over here if you didn't.
I didn't, mostly because I just didn't want to share my personal stuff before it happened. But yeah, I had hernia surgery on Monday, and it's been quite the recovery process. I had a hernia when I was in kindergarten, and then 25 years later...
Kindergarten?
Kindergarten, yeah.
Oh, wow.
25 years later, what happened was, in kindergarten, I should say, and then say 25 years later. So in kindergarten, they cut open the hernia, and they tied it up, put it in a little knot, and they put it back in. And they're like, okay, like eventually it's going to untie, because they couldn't put mesh in there because I was still growing, and the mesh would get distorted all over the place as I grew. So like, we're just going to tie it up and everything. But in 25 years, it'll probably pop again, because, you know, if I'm physically active and stuff, it's just going to happen. And yeah, you know, it popped, and I had to go get it fixed. And let me tell you, man, I shared with these guys in the green room the other day about how I was feeling about going into the surgery and everything, like the trauma I had from being in kindergarten doing it, because I had to wait from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. in order for the surgery to happen. So it means I couldn't eat any food, and I was just stuck in a hospital all day as a kid. So I literally hated it. And then I remember going in the operating room, and they put the sleeping gas on me, and it freaked me out that I tore it off and tried getting off the table. So I didn't have like the most pleasant time as a kindergartner. That going into this on Monday, I was very, very anxious. And I told them that, and they're like, okay, we'll give you something to calm your nerves. They put something in my IV that like helped me calm myself. I'm not shitting you though. They put that in. I said bye to my mom. They started wheeling me to the operating room. The next thing I know, I'm back in the room. The operation's done, and my mom is coming to see me. And I went, what the fuck did you guys just give me? I just skipped 2 hours of my life and don't remember any of it.
Give me a 24-pack of that.
I was like, wow, that was fucking incredible, honestly.
I'm glad you're doing all right, man. I didn't expect you to be part of the show today, too, out of complete, recovery and everything. So I'm grateful that you're here. If you need to, I already gave you bow out privileges. Dom does not have bow out privileges today, because if he bows out, we're screwed.
If I bow out, it's because of Mother Nature. It's because of these hailstorms that are affecting Chicago today.
if you can see outside my window, it's not as bad where Dom's at, but yeah.
It's hailstorm. It's hailstorm. No Tinley Park, if you get that reference today for damn sure. But I'm grateful you're here, Joe. Like I said, if you got to bow out or something like that, man, do what you got to do. Grateful that you're here. Grateful that you're good too. That's the main thing. I made the joke. We're reviewing Anora tonight. I made the joke that watching Mikey Madison attempt those wild and raucous sex positions was going to be enough to hurt your back, So it was a little dangerous to be watching this movie too, in recovery like you are too. But it's great to see you both. Dom, how's your week going? Can you top that? Can you top Joe?
Oh, absolutely not. In terms of drugs, no way.
You still got your
I got
gallbladder?
close. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's been wacky weather, really all over the place. Absolute peak, 70s, sunny, light breeze, very nice for March. And then you've got days like today where it's hailing and storming. So I think from now on, all Marches will just be topsy-turvy weather. And it'll only get topsier and turvier as the years go on.
This is as good of a March as you can ask for, though, so far.
It really has, because we've lived through some where it's nothing but snow, straight up. So this has been good. I
The
enjoy
most
this.
dangerous thing you can have is weather expectations for March or trying to plan an outdoor event in March. That is risky business. Even April, you're not completely absolved because that's usually when we get the most rain.
Yeah,
But March is an especially risky time to plan anything outdoors.
I agree.
So this is like the first like truly shitty day of the month, But wasn't it got we did get a couple severe warnings this morning if I remember correctly because I was at the station and they came through here in eastern Iowa at about like 7:30 ish.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It didn't see it was uglier than anything. Like it looked worse than I think it was, and then it came down like piss missiles. When I was driving to work, it was just like a lightning show. Like the kind of where there's no thunder, it's just a spree of lightning. You ever
Mm.
seen those where it's just lightning at like it's lightning too quick, it's like the thunder can't keep up, So it was like it looked like daybreak at a couple instances and stuff like that too. And then we had the Cubs. The Cubs on our AM station. The Cubs played in Tokyo the last 2 days, with first pitch at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let me tell you, without getting into too much detail, those broadcast issues were fun to deal with. But anyway, no more international baseball games for Christ's sake. They want to do the Super Bowl in London. I don't know how the hell that would work to
The
begin
Super
with.
Bowl?
Oh, they've been talking about it for years. They want a whole team they want a whole team in London full time.
The
And then
Monarchs.
yeah, they want like they'd have to make an international division, but that's been what they've been talking about for
I
years.
know.
They want to do a Super Bowl overseas.
I know the Bears somewhat recently played in London.
This year. Yeah.
But is that like a full on like there's enough demand for it?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's surprisingly-
every year they play multiple games in London. There's games in Munich now. There's games in Mexico.
Brazil.
Okay.
The problem is what they would have to do is they'd have to make it, not to go too long-winded in this, they'd have to make it an international division because it would be criminally unfair for a London team to have to travel eight or nine games, to the States.
Yeah.
I think it'd be like the NBA. You'd have better luck putting a team in Toronto. You know what I mean? But then too, the problem is then you're screwed in free agency because nobody's gonna. It's like Green Bay. No player wants to go to Green Bay. You know what I mean? They have to offer money. Like in the NBA, nobody wants to go to Toronto. Doesn't get free agents. Nobody wants to go to Canada. Nobody wants to live up in Canada. But. At any rate, though, we're talking to Nora today, the Best Picture winner this year, Sean Baker's brand new film. Well worth seeing. I'm kind of upset that we didn't review it before the Oscars, so we had a little bit more. I was the only one who had seen it before the Oscars, so I was the only one to talk about it, really. And even then, I saw it late because we didn't get it until January out here. But it has enjoyed a very nice theatrical run. It's one of the top grossing films for Neon too. It's definitely kind of been the slow burn movie of the year. It's still in the theaters. It came on Hulu on Monday on St. Patrick's Day, but it is in theaters still. I'm glad they've kind of loaned themselves, or Neon's adhered to Sean Baker's request of letting this movie breathe quite a bit in theaters because it was technically released, let me see, October. It was mid-October, and it's kind of been a slow burn expansion since then. But this is the new movie from Sean Baker. Sean Baker, a director that I absolutely love, was acquainted with him back in 2012. 2012. He made a movie called Starlet. And then he made a movie called Tangerine. His first big break, or when he really got mainstream recognition, was The Florida Project in 2016. His movies generally revolve around two different groups of people, sex workers or immigrants. And in this case, both. In this case, both. Nora is a lovely movie from top to bottom, though. It's about a stripper from New York who marries the son of a wealthy Russian oligarch. That's kind of redundant. I don't know any poor Russian oligarchs, but a Russian oligarch, no less, played by Mark Edelstein. You got to say that with a little flair on the name, though. And essentially what happens is his dad, the kid's dad, gets wind that he married this stripper, and he sends his goons and also one of his henchmen back to New York to annul the marriage. One of the henchmen is played by Yura Borisov. His name is Igor, who received a Best Supporting Actor nominee. Cannot wait to talk about his performance because there is a lot to say about his character that I absolutely loved. I reviewed this movie back in January, as I said. I think it's an incredible movie. It has a lot in common, I think, with the Safdie brothers movie Good Time, if you guys seen and remember that. Reminds me a lot of that, and it's sort of like manic energy, and it's just real off the wall pacing, kind of screwball comedy, sneaks up on you with meaning. Another movie of that nature too is After Hours by Martin Scorsese in the 80s. So it reminded me a lot of that movie too. We'll switch gears though. I want to hear somebody else's voice. Joe, what you got to say about Honora?
Oh, excuse me, sorry. Yeah. Going into this, it's always exciting when like win Best Picture, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go into this now, and you kind of go in and go, yeah, let's see what the Best Picture is made of, and then you see and you say to yourself, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. This movie, I think one thing I think people haven't really addressed about this movie is, while it is funny, plenty of good laughs out of it. And I can't laugh in the condition I'm in, so it kind of pissed me off that I was laughing while watching this and having a good time. It just hurts my stomach even more. But the last like 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll get into it more later, it hits you in the gut at one point. It's like, ooh, this is getting dark and twisted. But before I go there, I mean, just initial reaction, yeah, Madison put in one hell of a good performance. I still don't know if I would say Demi Moore deserves it. I think I need to go back and watch The Substance now just to really have that fresh in my mind with this next to it. But I totally get why she ended up winning that award because she, like Sean Baker says, without Mikey, there is no Honora. She really did sell this movie fully, from her performance to the dedication of the role. And all the research I'm sure she had to do talking to the sex worker community, and figuring out like, what are some things they've dealt with and how did they react to it and whatnot. It's also one of my other favorite things about the movie is that I just didn't know where it was going. I've seen the trailer and everything. And I feel like the trailer actually hides a lot that, you don't know about, but going from like, okay, we're starting here and it's her being a stripper and everything. Then she runs into the Russian kid, and then they get married in Vegas, and then they're living with each other. And then like Gore gets back home, this dude just takes off, and it's just like, wait, what? Where's he going? It's a very unpredictable movie as well, where like the entire time, like while I'm laughing, I'm kind of also like stressing out, like I don't know if anybody really is going to be that dangerous to she goes by Annie in the movie, but you can also call her Nora, Mike Madison's character. I don't know if she is in danger necessarily with these people. It doesn't seem like it, but like there's just like every few instances I'm thinking to myself like, oh, they're gonna be hold on. Hey, Dom, you can go.
No, honestly, off of that, I share the same observation in the sense that at any given moment you're thinking, oh, someone's gonna pull out a gun and do like a execution, right? Like there's gonna be like murder in this movie, but in a way it grounds itself and it has. I appreciate that. I could have gone either way. Like, oh, okay, we're going into like murder mob hit territory and stuff like that. Maybe one or two, that way they don't run away with it or whatever. But I do admire that. I guess spoiler for this point of tension that they don't really do that. It is grounded and there is a lot. It honestly gives the goons, the three goons, something to really work for, where it's like, no, they're really like looking for this guy and they don't have, it's not like John Wick where there's suddenly a million resources with infinite manpower and, an army of people to take on John Wick out of nowhere. It's like, no, there is a power level here that scales quite well. So just kind of finishing Joe's point. For me, I just got to say, man, what a fantastic year for young women to shake their ass in the screen for 20 minutes at a time and then things go horribly wrong. Between The Substance and Honora, fantastic year for that. I said for The Substance, my kind of tongue-in-cheek summary for its Substance was, how far are you willing to go to see Margaret Qualley's ass? That was The Substance. For this, not quite so much that. It kind of creeps up on you where it's like, or actually, no, it hits you in the face with Mikey Madison right out the gate with the opening scene. But from there, it's more, it's kind of like that. It's like kind of like that in reverse where it's like, okay, you get that full on and then it just pulls away slowly until it suddenly you're somewhere else. This is, this is one part. This is one part. What? Uncut Gems, where it's just consistent swearing. Maybe like The Sopranos, you could say, even certain scenes of The Sopranos, where it's just complete and total debauchery and family dysfunction. Actually,
I was definitely getting.
Uh-huh.
I'm definitely getting like Soprano vibes. With her like New Yorker or Jersey accent, even.
Yes.
I was definitely getting that from like there. But I do definitely see the comparison to the Safdie brothers movies that they've made. Because like this thing just does not stop. Once it gets going, I mean, it's just going. Like even when like nothing bad's really happening, like when it's just Honora and what's his name, Ivan, and they're just spending time with one another. I mean, like it's progressing really fast. She's invited to parties. She's invited just to spend the night there with him and have sex, and then they go to Vegas and everything. And it's just like, man, like this stuff is just moving, and like it does not slow down. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. The pacing of this movie, I think, is perfect. For a movie that's 2 hours and like 12 minutes, I didn't feel its length at all. And by the time it wrapped up, I was like, oh shit, like that just flew by.
It's a runaway train. It's like one big drug high. We're just going and going and going until suddenly you find yourself here, and it's like, oh Jesus, we are crashing hard.
Yeah.
I wanted to just chime in really quick because I did not look at this beforehand, but when you were talking about too how vulgar this movie is and how many F-bombs are thrown around, I went to one of my favorite Wikipedia pages, list of films that most frequently use the word fuck.
Yes.
One of my favorite Wikipedia pages. And I looked. Can we guess where Honora ranks?
I want to say top 5.
You say top 5, Dom.
I know the number one answer. I think.
Yeah. Yes. What say you, Joe? Where do you think Honora ranks?
I'm gonna say 8.
It ranks number 5.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It ranks number 5 behind Uncut Gems, 517 uses of the word fuck or some derivative. No, not shit. Fuck. Uncut, and what's funny is Uncut Gems is still a little bit further at 560 for number 4. That rate for Honora, 517 uses of the word fuck in a runtime of 139 minutes, which is 2 hours and 19 minutes. That is a rate of 3.72 uses of fuck per minute.
3.2 fucks per minute.
They really don't start dropping the F-bombs until the goons start showing up.
I want to know how many are in the mansion scene alone with the 4.
Dude, yeah.
Because that whole scene, I love that scene. It's probably my favorite extended scene in the movie because Baker lets that scene go for 20 minutes? Yeah. Where it's just the 4 of them. It is the 3 goons, that's kind of what we're just calling them now, and Mikey Madison. And it's so wildly unpredictable. And I got what you're saying, Joe, too, because it's like, it's funny. It really is. It's really funny.
It's like magnetic.
It
holds you.
It's like they sent the Keystone Cops after her. And it's funny, but it's also like, there's an air of danger, obviously, too, because she's a young woman in the presence of 3 dudes and the husband's gone, Ivan's gone. Inexplicably, you don't know where the hell he went. The movie does a beautiful job at making him disappear. And like Dom, you were even saying too, this isn't like a spy movie where they have a tracking device and they're watching where he's going. No, this is like an old-fashioned foot chase. It's no easy task in a city as big as the Big Apple to find somebody. The only people you run into, and again, Catherine and I are making our way through, almost done with Sex in the City. The only time you run into people that you know is with the people you don't want to see. Like, and so trying to find somebody in that city on like a weekend night is a nightmare. And it actually I really think this movie conveys the exhaustion because it's like by an hour and 40 and they still haven't found him. It's like, Jesus Christ.
I remember like when they get on the road and everything, they go to the pier and then they're walking from one end to the pier to the other. You spend a long time walking on that pier, man. They really do make you feel like the length of how long it's taken to find Ivan. You really like the the more time we're spending with them, the more time you're kind of coming to terms with like, okay, they're not as dangerous as I thought, but it's like, how is Annie going to get out of this in terms of keeping her marriage with Ivan, because she really wants to and everything. And like, all these guys keep telling her is like, no, 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 this thing's gonna get annulled as soon as you find him. We're annulling this thing. One of my favorite moments in the movie is where they try to go annul it, and then they get there, and the lawyer turns around and tells them, "Wait a minute, they got married in Vegas? What?" And where that leads, I had to like hold myself from like busting out laughing.
The funny thing is, anyone could have seen that coming, but it
That
just kind of
courtroom
sneaks
scene
up
in
on
general
you.
is hilarious.
Where it's like, oh yeah, we did know that, didn't we?
And then it like starts this whole like screwball adventure again. I called it in my review. I don't think this is really an original opinion, but this is kind of like the anti-Disney fairy tale for this stripper. That's what this movie is. And I love how you even put it too, Joe, in your opening remarks, is that this is one of those movies, and it's so deft the way that it does it, because a lot of movies that do this run the risk of being maudlin or run the risk of over-correcting, as if they did something wrong in the first two acts by making a pivoting and turning a funny story into something serious. This is one of those movies that like keeps you laughing because of its like screwball manic energy for a long period of time. And then it like sneaks up on you with how really tragic this whole story is.
Yeah.
And how damn sad the whole thing is.
It really is sad, because the ending, though, the final like scene in general is just a reality check for Annie. And it's a heartbreaking one too, because it's just like you're with her this whole time, and it's like, look, like, the best for you as well, but maybe you shouldn't be with that guy. And then once the ending happens, I'm just kind of like, all right, I don't know what to do with you anymore. Like, I just feel bad. Like, you have to go back to this life now and everything. Like, oh man. Yeah, I don't want to ruin too much, but yeah.
That's the life for someone who works that hard and for that long in that industry. Not that I know, but rather from what has been conveyed through this movie, which is that's the life. Is that every transaction, every transaction is sex, and any sex you have is transactional, or at least it defaults to that. Any sign of, niceness is a transaction actually, because sex
there's got to be something more.
Exactly, there's got to be something more, because sex is a deeply intimate, the original. What they say, it's the original profession, right? The oldest profession, and so on. But it's such a deeply intimate, personal thing. And then I've seen some discourse where it's like, oh, that ending just came out of nowhere. It felt cheap. I strongly disagree. I strongly disagree, because it's the natural conclusion of everything that we've seen. Aside from the exhaustion, the physical exhaustion of it all. The whole point of Honora's character is that she has an escape. She has achieved, nirvana, this American dream by her hustling, et cetera, et cetera. But and the whole juicy part of the movie, once it gets going, once the Ivan disappears, is her clinging onto that in any which way. Because I guess we can kind of delve into some spoilers here, at least lightly. Is that when Ivan goes back to the strip club, is such a hilarious way to finally find him.
I love it, because the goons even point at him like, look at it, like we've been looking around all day for him, and this guy's been here the whole time.
It's like we should have known. It's almost like a Scooby-Doo reveal.
And it is funny. It keeps that momentum. It's totally like a runaway train, but there is a tragedy to it, because when Annie finds him, she's still desperately clinging on to the fact that, no, you're still my husband. I'm your wife, etc. We can save this. We can do this, right? I can fix it. I can put it back together. And she clings to that and clings to that and clings to that until it all comes apart. And then that's where you get the final scene. And I think it's just, at least if you're trying to deliver that message, which Sean Baker did very effectively, then that's the perfect way to do it.
I like this movie too for a lot of reasons, but I love the fact that having followed Baker now for several years, and there's still I have not seen everything he's done. His first movie is one I really want to check out, but more it's called Takeout. But the other thing though that I love about Baker is that you really see the maturation of his direction here. Not only is he working with larger budgets and a larger scale and stuff like that, but he swiftly moves from like the Florida Project, which was set in like mostly at a dingy sort of motel outside of the outskirts of Disneyland, and he seamlessly adjusts to the grand scope of New York City. One of the best, not so much scenes, but I think shots and techniques that he uses in this movie is the tracking shot of the strip club brawl that's set to DMX's song "Where the Hood At," and it's one long tracking shot through the tight halls of the strip club and the fight and all the people jumping in and out. It had to be a nightmare to stage. And it's Goodfellas-esque in the way that he weaves his camera throughout. It's one long, I mean, go back and watch it. It's one long uninterrupted shot for like a good 2 minutes of just the whole brawl taking place. And it's probably the biggest set, at least that I have seen from him, the biggest of set pieces that he has ever conducted. And it's fucking seamless.
Another thing I also loved about just one detail I loved about the movie is how much is happening. Like in the scene will be focusing on Annie talking to someone, but off to the side is like the guy in the beige coat. I forgot his name. Oh my god.
Garnick or
no, not Garnick.
Toros?
The guy that's
Toros?
Thank you. So Andy will be talking to somebody, and then like Toros will be in the background, and he's having a whole different conversation, and then this person's having a whole different conversation. It makes it feel like how, again, we're talking about like how crazy this one night is of them trying to find this kid, and just hearing all of them have different conversations throughout like area that they're in, like, they're just going out to people, have you seen this kid, and it's like Andy's just trying to focus on one thing. It just made it feel that more like it brought that much more energy to the situation and just made it feel that more dire that they had to find this kid, because it's just like, man, like they're literally just going around everywhere asking people if they've seen him and everything, and they're not stopping. Like it also just makes the world feel lived in as well, because it's not just the characters interacting with one another. No, it's the characters like interacting with restaurant goers, banquet hall attendees at this like Russian restaurant thing with like older people.
This takes place.
Like
the majority of this movie takes place in Brighton Beach, which is a mostly Russian American neighborhood of Brooklyn. And my God, is it? Honestly, it felt like I was playing GTA 4 again.
Dude, I thought about that too. Like the minute they went to the pier and they like were going up and down the pier, I thought about Niko Bellic.
Yeah.
Oh, even looking at Euro Borisov, if they ever made like a GTA 4 short film, it's like you could play Nico. you kind of got a Nico look to him, he's got a Niko Bellic look to him. I like the reference there. Yeah, and I kind of want to save this for after the intermission, but I want to talk too about how I think one thing that and you feel this especially kind of maybe build up a long tease here and we'll cut to break. You feel this especially in a movie that every movie's collaborative, but especially when one voice prevails or one person prevails and has so much oversight over the movie. Like, for example, Sean Baker tied Disney for most Oscar wins for a singular film because he is the credited director, writer, producer, along with his wife, Samantha Kwan, and a couple other people. And he was the editor of this movie, too. So you feel this intensely when somebody presides over so many important parts in a movie is the coaching of actors and the performances that he gets out of actors that do not have a lot of screen credits to their name. And he has done this consistently, Baker. Him and his wife have done this consistently from the beginning. Go back and look at his other movies like Starlet, Tangerine, Red Rocket, The Florida Project, and this one, Nora. I would say all of those movies, the leads in all of those movies were never leads beforehand, not even co-leads beforehand. And it's important to note that because so much of his movies rest on the leads. The stories are integral to the lead. I mean, the movie's named after Mikey Madison's character. She is the heart of the movie. Everything that's happening engulfs her in some way. So he not only takes these actors that do not have a lot of experience, but he puts them in these very challenging roles. I mean, I just read too, when you guys were talking, Mikey Madison, she learned how to pole dance for this movie. She learned how to speak Russian for this movie. And this is her first role. Like her only other, like she had a couple TV roles and stuff. She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She was in the Tarantino movie too. And
Scream 5 as well.
Far more limited role. Yes, indeed. In Scream too. So she's had small to medium-ish parts. She's never had anything like this. And I'm just kind of using that as sort of a launch pad for a long tease that I want to go back into when we come back from break. We'll take our Zoom-sponsored intermission break a little bit early, if that's okay with you two gentlemen.
Yeah.
Take about 60 to 90 seconds here. We will come back, talk more about Anora. Still a couple big points I want to get to about this great movie. So excited that we got the three of us together to talk about this movie. Joe is in recovery mode, but he's sailing through this. I really appreciate it. Offering good commentary, too. So I really appreciate that. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes at Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. Back and better than ever. It's Sleepless with Steve after our Zoom-sponsored intermission, talking Anora. Basically had a big launch pad, though, to say that Sean Baker, who is attached to so many elements in this movie, from producing to directing to writing to editing, I think he's a phenomenal acting coach. And I think it really shows with this movie and multiple of his other movies. In The Florida Project, he took Brooklyn Prince, who was mainly a commercial actor, an actress in commercials and different things. And she was 8 years old at the time. And he made her an integral part of that movie in The Florida Project, and it was excellent. And she carried the emotional weight of that movie at such a young age. And he reminds me a lot of, not so much in his projects are different, but they tackle very similar themes. But he reminds me a lot of Richard Linklater. I think Linklater is another phenomenal acting coach, and I think he works with a lot more established people. But I also think that he takes a lot of younger people, especially like in movies like Everybody Wants Some. He takes a lot of younger people who don't. I mean, people forget 10 years ago he was one of the first major filmmakers to hire Glenn Powell, and it really used him in a comedy role in that Everybody Wants Some. So I think Baker deserves a lot of credit here too. But I mean, Mikey Madison put in the work, and it definitely shows. She holds together a movie where the lion's weight of the biggest moments are on her.
A lion's weight of the momentum is just her screaming in a way that isn't annoying. It's a very, very fine art, very, very fine line. Otherwise, you just turn into probably the most egregious example in my mind is the character of Willie from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where it's just nonstop the blonde woman screaming constantly. And you know, in her defense, that's more of the writer/director's decision and relationship. But in terms of Nora, it's like, Jesus Christ, there is a magnetism, especially to that middle scene, and especially to her as well. And I'm not just even talking about her sex appeal. It's a lot of things coming together in really awesome ways that just propel this whole thing forward. And I thoroughly enjoyed it so much. So talk about some of the supporting cast here, starting with the guy that got nominated for the Oscars, Yura Borisov. I didn't even recognize him at the time. I have been watching clips of a Russian movie called Kalishnikov, or rather AK-47, and it's about the creation of the most famous gun in the world called the AK-47, and it's named after Kalishnikov. And Borisov plays that role. So I've been seeing him in shorts and clips, and it's like, oh yeah, there he is. There's Igor from Anora inventing the AK-47. Which is a very funny way to realize I've been watching him. But no, his character is he again, like many other things in this movie, it just creeps up on you. And it's like, damn, this dude does have a presence. He's not, we call him a goon because he is, but he very quickly does not become that at all. Right? You get to know some of these, at least their character, right? Maybe not their backstory, but certainly who they are beyond just the facelessness of their job and role. A little bit of their personality, and he sticks out the most out of the three of them, especially.
Oh, definitely. And the slow burn kind of way that Baker, and if you go back, I'd like to go back and watch it just to notice now, knowing now what I know, what comes around in the third act. But the way that Borisov at first in the early part of the movie, he looks like he's leering onto Annie in the movie at so many different angles, and the way that Baker slowly and softly draws attention to his sort of like watchful eye that he keeps on Annie throughout the whole movie is also a testament to Borisov's strength as an actor, who can convey so much by seemingly doing so little, but also just being like this silent force of like sympathy and sort of like a guardian in a way too. Like he's phenomenal. I was so happy to hear his name called when they announced the nominees.
Yeah. It's a certain kind of aura too to the guy. He's blessed with the facial features, the stare. I think he's blonde-eyed, but it's a not a chilling stare, but a captive stare.
He's also the first Russian actor to be nominated in an acting category in over 4 decades for the Oscars. The last one was Mikhail Baryshnikov. I think I said that right. In
Kalishnikov? No, I'm kidding.
In 1977, I had to be sure. I'm like, this wasn't the guy that invented the AK, was it? But no, he's tremendous here. You got anything to add, Joe?
What was I going to say about his performance? Sorry, I kind of like zoned out there for a little bit. Performance. I mean, like I said, when those goons are first initially like introduced, especially him because he's wearing the hoodie and he's standing behind the big guy. And he's like just kind of like standing off the corner, like, oh, dude, this is definitely part of like some like Russian mobster like type of thing. This guy's definitely bad news. And he does the incident in the candy store, and all you're thinking is, this guy might hurt Nora. As the night goes on, he's like the only person that actually does care about her to make sure she's okay. Like offering her a scarf, offering her food, all this other stuff. I think one of my favorite moments, and it defines, I think, who the guy is for someone like Honora, is when they're on the plane ride to Vegas to get the wedding annulled, and Annie gets up and says something to Ivan, like, basically calls him, I think she calls him a pussy or something. And she sits back down, and just one, like, within 5 seconds, he pours a cup of, like, vodka, hands it to her, she downs it, and that's it. They don't say anything to each other. They're just riding the plane ride, and it's just like, you know what? I'm like, that scene perfectly captures, like, what the relationship of these two is. It's just like, he really does care about her and feels sorry that she's stuck in this situation. And, like, for her, I mean, she's probably just glad to have at least somebody, like, be real with her throughout this whole process.
Who doesn't, like, expect anything in return, despite what she might think. Too. Despite what she might think. Like, doesn't even need a thank you. Doesn't even need, like, an acknowledgement. Doesn't even need any kind of verbal acknowledgement either. And that's why I think their dynamic in this movie is so damn special. And again, it's one that, like, you don't notice in the first, or at least maybe on first watch you don't notice, because there's so much going on. There's so much chaos into this story. There's so much, sort of moving parts and different characters and stuff like that, as Joe mentioned too. And even you too, Dom, the conversations that take place and overlap over conversations. There's just so much going on. It's not until the movie slows down in the last 40 minutes and does so very eloquently and just really kind of pauses and lets you take in those, like, small human moments that you realize have been there the whole time.
There's an angle to this with the movie. You mentioned screwball comedy. For me, the standard bearer for that is Arsenic and Old Lace. I don't know if you've seen that movie, Steve.
No.
Very charming film, and it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember watching it a couple times, and I remember it holds a very fond place in my heart. And one of the hallmark of those screwball comedies from the mid 20th century is just how, like, it feels like a play at times, in the sense that you're familiarizing yourself with this set, maybe like the literal house, which we see in Honora as well, but also just the general setting and vibe of the whole place, and how well connected it can feel. And for this movie, at times I thought to myself, playing around with it in the back of my head, thinking, I wonder if they can make a stage play production of this.
They probably could. I mean, there's only a very few locations they go to. I mean, for God's sakes, one of the stage locations could just be that car.
Yeah,
they're in that car for a long period of time. Sleep in that car at one point.
Yeah, if you're thinking of if you had to deduce it down to just a handful of settings, you would probably say strip club. You would say the house itself, the mansion itself, the car, and it would be, I mean, I guess, like, the courthouse.
Yeah.
If you had to deduce it down to a play, it very well could be. And it's also, like, you don't get a lot of directors and writers, and this is a complaint. I just don't subscribe to it. I really don't. Like, this happens, and this isn't the case with Honora, but it happens when plays are adapted into movies. And you get a lot of complaints from critics and audiences that the movie feels too much like a play. Well, that's the fucking source material. Like, the play naturally isn't going to have a whole, couple dozen different settings. It was always a stupid complaint, in my opinion. I thought
One Night in Miami.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah, like you got four of the most important black men in the 20th century. I don't care what the set looks like, all that 100. Much. Respect to the set designers, but we don't need to be globetrotting here.
One of the great play to movie adaptations of the last 20 years is Carnage, Roman Polanski's movie about two parents, two different sets of parents, so four in total, two different sets of parents who meet in the one's apartment after the one kid knocks another kid's teeth out with a branch. And it's the confrontation between the parents, and it's something that with this movie is that some directors I think would fear spending too much time in one location, and I think a lot of directors do fear that. A lot of directors kind of fear like spending 10 minutes or an upwards of 10 to 15 minutes in a singular location. And my philosophy is just kind of like the whole idea that no idea for a movie is inherently good or bad, or can't like an idea can't be made into a movie. It's all about approach and timing and writing.
Yes.
And themes and execution, where like again there's no right or wrong amount of time to spend in a singular location. What you need is dynamic performances. In this case you have it.
Yeah. Doesn't also helps that it's a mansion. it's a big
Right.
old mansion. No, honestly, and kudos to like they do visit if you're doing this literally, they do visit a number of locations. But those montages in that opening third is so good. Like it is a party all the way through. Honestly, the more I'm thinking about it, this is just The Hangover. Maybe not quite literally, but it runs a similar skeleton. We'll say that. Certainly not emotionally or thematically, but if we're talking about the literal plot, it runs some of that as well.
It's kind of got the hazy detective story.
Yes.
Like, putting the pieces back together into the puzzle and things like that. No, I absolutely love this movie, though. I'm glad it won Best Picture because I think it will be. And I don't think there was a lot from this year, but we said it during the Oscar show. I said, I think Anora and The Substance will be the two movies from this class that will be fondly remembered.
I think so.
And looked at as sort of contemporary classics. I'm talking 10 plus years down the road. I think Conclave will always be on TV, deservedly so. Mm-hmm. I think The Brutalist will always be a letterboxed favorite. Wicked will always have its legion of musical fans, and wait until the second part comes out later this year, when we're going to do the whole thing over again. But I think when it comes to the class of the year, it's Anora and it's The Substance. And when I looked at it, because I picked Anora about 2 weeks before the Oscars, I just went with my gut. I said, I think it's the most unconventional crowd pleaser of the lot. And I also think too that it tackles a number of genres very well, and it has a real emotional pathos at the end that pays off incredibly.
I'm totally with it. Is this our final thoughts?
I think so. I mean, I think it's profane, profound. I think it's hilarious. I think it's heartbreaking. You can tell I favor alliteration. And I think it's I love how just it confronts you with real raw and complex emotions. Just seemingly out of nowhere, but then you kind of double back in your mind and you let it marinate and you just recall like how you got there. And I think that is really a testament to just Baker, and his due credit to his wife too. She's not a credited writer or director, but she has enormous influence on all of his movies for the last several years, Samantha Kwan. I think it's a testament to how well they work together, how well they flesh out these visions, and just the risk too of taking actors, and this speaks even beyond Anora, but taking actors that do not have a lot of credit or a lot of experiences as leads, and really kind of puts them through like a crash course on how to act in multiple different tonal shifts and adrenaline and physicality, and all these other things too. I got to go with my original rating here of 3.5 out of 4 stars, but I think upon rewatch, this could easily be 4 stars for me. That's where I stand. We'll go Dom, then Joe for closing thoughts.
It's a nonstop. This is Bullet Train. This is a bullet train of a movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. As Joe was saying earlier at the beginning, I'm not shocked that this won Best Picture. I'm not shocked that Mikey Madison beat out Demi Moore for The Substance, which in my opinion is still an Oscar-worthy performance. But in my mind, it could still go either way. But I had a strong suspicion with that before I had seen this movie. Yeah, I bet there's a good reason for it, as Joe had said. For me, this is, I'm gonna give this 4 out of 4 stars, because not since, man, I'm trying to think the last time that I had that much propulsion in a movie where it was just going nonstop, no matter what, whether the emotion was positive or negative, just that much energy behind it.
Was it Parasite maybe?
But that's a really good comparison. Yeah. I was almost tempted to say Elvis, just because of those effing montages, which are over the top and beautiful in their own right. But honestly, Parasite is a very good way of going about it. And man, it makes me not want to watch Mickey 17 at all. Certainly, which
Oh
we
my
reviewed
God.
last week. No, yeah, easily 4 out of 4 stars for me.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm glad, Steve, you said Raw because basically how the movie felt for me. It felt like, yeah, I used this when we did the Holdovers review, that you spend so much time with certain characters that you sometimes forget you're watching a movie and you forget these are characters and you're just kind of just wrapped up in what's going on at this very moment in time with them. And Honora had the same thing too. When they're driving around searching for Ivan, I got lost in that part of the film. Did I freeze?
No.
But the low power on my phone came on and it looked like I froze.
Mm-mm.
The entire time they're going throughout the city to try and find Ivan, I was watching a movie at times. I really did because it was just directed that well. The performances were that captivating. The way it was edited and everything, it felt like I was just kind of like I was actually with people trying to find this kid, um, and whatnot, and how the night just got crazier and crazier as they're trying to find him. I love this movie from beginning to end. I think I think the ending is like it's a shocking gut punch because I was like, well, she's gonna have some kind of happy ending, right? And it's just like, oh man. And honestly, it's not the when everybody told me that like she doesn't get a hat because I knew she didn't. People spoiled that for me. I still didn't expect that the way it was handled in this film. I thought it was going to go a whole different direction based on how the movie was starting and playing out in the middle. But how it does that, I'm just like, damn. All right. For me, I'm gonna give it as well. For me, this is a 4 out of 4 star movie. This easily would have been in my top five last year had I seen it before we actually did those lists.
Look at
And
that.
that's the tough part. So many of these movies like come out at the beginning of the new calendar year,
Yep.
kind of when you have to have your list made if you don't get screeners and stuff like that. That's why I tend to I almost think now what I'm going to start doing, and I think it would be I think you run the risk of it being quote unquote old news, but I think I'm going to start waiting, and I might even push the best and worst shows back for us to like late January.
Maybe.
Uh,
Yeah.
just to give us the residual effect of like a lot of these potential Oscar movies because it happens every year. Poor Things was last year, or it was
Yep.
was last year's version for 2023, so to speak. But I'm really glad you guys liked it. I'm really glad you guys thoroughly enjoyed Anora and stuff. I knew it was going to be a great conversation. It's going to be a complete gear switch next week because we are talking about the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes movie, the brand new Looney Tunes movie in theaters now. We're going to pair that with discussion. We might get more clarity on it by next week. But it was breaking news today that Ketchup Entertainment, the company behind The Day the Earth Blew Up, might be the ones to acquire Coyote versus Acme. And that's going to be an interesting story to follow now too, because apparently it's been reported that Ketchup Entertainment offered Warner 50 million for the rights to this movie. Now, it's really I don't want to go too much into it. We'll talk more about it next week when there might be other developments, but it's kind of interesting that the studio, Ketchup Entertainment, behind movies like Hellboy the Crooked Man, Ferrari, Hypnotic, and the most recent Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer movie Superfast has $50 million at their disposal to
Yeah.
potentially acquire Coyote versus Acme, a movie that after the box office performance, a different beast, but after the box office performance of The Day the Earth Blew Up is might be a risky gambit after all. We're gonna talk about that though, because I know The Day the Earth Blew Up is a fairly short movie, so we're gonna pair that with a discussion about Ketchup potentially acquiring Coyote versus Acme next week on Sleepless with Steve. Joe, you're a real trooper today, not only for making the show but sticking all the way through, man. You deserve some rest. Get some rest. Continue your great recovery, man. I greatly appreciate you being here today.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
Dom, always a pleasure. Thank you for hosting the show. Should have given you credit earlier, too. You're the one hosting the show today, but I dearly appreciate you stepping in for Joe so he can recover, too. We'll be back next week, hopefully past our ailments, whatever they may be. For Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.